pacing back and forth. Oh, I don't understand why you're standing right here.
What up, YouTube? Another short one today. Unfortunately, just got a call from Charlie's school that he woke up from his nap and kind of pretty quickly, I guess, threw up most of his lunch. Obviously, want to make sure he's okay. So heading to pick him up, and I guess if he's not, we'll be headed to the doctor. Anyway, let's get into the couple of interesting hands that I did play. I did just get another call from Charlie's school. Turns out he's thrown up again, so obviously he's not doing very well. Hopefully we'll be able to take him to the doctors and make sure that he is okay. So in the meantime, while we make this trip to go get him, the first one, there is a player who opens to 15. I flat queen jack offsuit in position. I think this is probably maybe just a 3-bet. He's a player that's really sticky. I didn't necessarily want to get too out of line in his spot, and I figure my hand plays well in position. We end up going 4 ways to a flop, which is kind of the problem because now I'm like praying to hit a flop, and if I do flop a jack, it's like obviously people's ranges are wide enough to have king jack, ace jack, so I think as a 3-bet the hand plays much better. Anyway, we go to showdown. He ends up winning with ace 7 for making like a runner straight multi-way. And that he checks down. I guess he was trying to trap me or something on the river with me the last act. Anyway, so the very next hand, or maybe a few hands later, he opens under the gun of a straddle to 30. I have king queen suited to his very left, and I decide to 3-bet to isolate because my hand's gonna just play a much better post flop, heads up, and similarly because I think I could just be ahead of his range. If he's going to be opening hands like ace 7 offsuit, then he's clearly going to be opening all sorts of garbage. So I make it 85, folds back to him, and he calls. The flop comes queen jack 8 rainbow. So I flop top pair, good kicker. It's a pretty connected board. When he checks here, I want to be betting for value. I decide to bet 80 to size down. He's not playing too much. I think he's playing about 400 at this point. So on this board against this specific opponent, I'm just looking to get it in. If he does check raise me, I'm just never folding this hand to him. If he has me beat, he has me beat. I just think he's going to have a lot of other hands here, like some straight draws, some pair plus straight draws, things of that nature. He ends up just calling, and the turn is an offsuit 10. So a 9 is a straight, ace-king is obviously in the nuts. I don't expect him to have ace-king here ever. Obviously, ace-king is going to be much more in my range. When he checks here on the turn, I could obviously just be turning my hand into a bluff with the king blocker and having the ability to rep ace-king myself. At the same time, though, he's the type of opponent I don't expect him to ever fold better than what I specifically have, which is king-queen. I don't think he's going to be folding like 2-pair unless maybe specifically it's a hand like jack-10 or 10-8, which are bottom 2. So I decided to just check back and realize equity. The river is a brick, and he checks again. I could be trying to go for some thin value, but I don't know if there's just enough room here to be going for a thin value. I decided to check it back and beat his ace-10 offsuit, so he flopped a double gutter on the flop. I'm actually quite surprised that he didn't end up just jamming it here in on the flop, because obviously this is just a really good hand for him to have. I guess he figures that I'm gonna just never fold here, so he wanted to just be able to call and hit. If I'm him, I think just folding pre-flop's best, obviously, because he has ace-10 offsuit. Like, the hand's just not going to play well against my 3-betting range. But, you know, someone that's opening ace-10 offsuit under the gun is probably not going to be folding into a 3-bet either. Anyway, so we win that hand. On the flop, maybe I could size up just a tad. But obviously my size down bet actually could have worked really well to induce him to jam here. Now, the last hand of note, there is a player at the table who is kind of tilting, playing bad, losing a number of hands, doing some interesting things in just a number of pots. So he opens to 20 in like early mid position, gets like 2 or 3 callers. I'm in the cutoff with 9-10 offsuit. I elect to call. We're both like over $1,000 deep. I like playing hands in position, as I've mentioned. So I call, and we end up going like 5 or 6 ways to the flop, which comes 9-8 deuce. I think those small blind or big blind check. He now bets like 50 into 120. The player after him folds. It's on me. There's like 3 people to act. Obviously, with top pair here, it kind of sucks, but I'm just never folding top pair. This is the tough spots you can get yourself into when you play a hand like this. I think there's nothing else here I can do really but call. Raising is obviously overplaying my hand. There's no need to do that. So I call. Everybody else folds, which is great because on this board, obviously, there's a lot of different straight draws like Jack 10, Queen Jack, Queen 10, 7-6, things of that nature. So it's a lot better here to be just taking it heads up. The turn is now a 5, so 6-7 gets there, and he bets again 75, which is a really strange bet. I'm not really sure what he's doing here. Sometimes people like doing this in pots when they have like an overpair like 10s, jacks, queens, and they don't really want to just be checking. Again, I don't think I have any other choice here but to call. So I call. Obviously, there are some options here to turn my hand into a bluff, but given his sizing, I don't think that's necessary. So I call. The river is a 9, which is obviously pretty much the nut card for me. And now he bets 130. Again, it looks like he either has like some goofy airball that he's just betting down for God knows what sake, or that he's got an overpair, like I mentioned, 10s, jacks, queens, that doesn't really know what else to do. I think raising here is fine. I'm just not entirely sure what I'm getting called by. Maybe I can balance in, you know, some raises here to get him to call with his overpairs if he thinks that I'm turning a hand like Jack 10 into a bluff. The thing is like, other than Jack 10, I don't really have any other bluffing hands. I couldn't obviously show up with better hands here than 9-10 on this specific board. Given how he's been playing and that I've been playing with him a lot as of late, I actually just decided that I think he's bluffing here a lot, and I'd rather just call to kind of see what he's taking this line with. So I call, and he pretty much instantly goes like, good call, ace high. I table my hand, and he goes, oh, you didn't want to raise that? I obviously don't answer this question. I think against specific opponents, raising here is, you know, fine, especially because I'm going to want to balance my hands. If I'm not raising this hand on the river, then I'm going to be really imbalanced on the river when I do raise to have hands like nuts or nothing. I just decided in this case that I wasn't really going to be called by worse. I didn't expect him to have better, and I also didn't expect him to have a hand that can call me down just because of the way he played. It just didn't seem likely that he has a hand, like I said, that's like an overpair. So I ended up winning that pot, and shortly after that, I got a call letting me know that I had to go pick up Charlie. I ended up winning like $550 for the session, so not bad for like a short 3 or 4 hour session. I'm going to be picking up Charlie soon, almost there. Charlie, how you feeling? You're not feeling so hot?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Alright, hopefully you feel better soon. I'm sorry. Charlie, are you feeling better? Yeah.
Lollipop.
Lollipop. Yeah, Mommy made you ice pop.
Till we find what we want, then we lose it all again. Your touch on my skin, pull me close, take me in. Just me, just you, lost in the moment. Lost in the moment. Nowhere left to run.
Oh, I thank you. Only one orange.
When we lose it all again, your touch on my skin, pull me close, take me in. Just me, just you, lost in the moment. Lost in the moment. Lost in the moment.
Pretty damn frustrated. Been waiting over an hour here to get into this game. Looks like I need to come even sooner than like 9:30 in the morning because I get locked out for over an hour when they don't start a second game and nobody wants to leave. First up, been first up.
Well, that was pretty frustrating. As you can tell from this video, this is what happens when every single person decides to go for a long walk. I'm playing by myself. It's very sad. Apparently everybody got up at like the same exact time and didn't want to play, which caused some of the worst players to just decide to give up. Essentially the game just kind of broke I wasn't in the mood to wait anymore. It was like 3:15. I've only got like maybe 2 hours at most I can play. Just kind of frustrated the fact that some of the worst players decided to leave. Got some errands to run, so I figured might as well run them. We're gonna go to Costco. Gonna go to Costco, get some gas, and maybe do some shopping, grab some dinner, enjoy the nice weather. It is beautiful today, so you know, not to be cooped up inside of a casino all day. Let's get into some hands. Hashtag dad life, sitting in the Costco gas line. Figure now's a great time to go over those hands. I get moved to the main game. I think I'm stuck a little bit after having lost ace queen versus queen 8 suited on like an ace high 3-spade board against a short stack who jammed on me when I c-bet. I called and was drawn fairly dead. This hand occurs. There's a I think an earlier middle position open to 20. He gets 2 callers. I'm in the big blind with jack 8 suited. Obviously probably best as a fold, but little did you know, this is a hand which I dubbed quite some time ago, quote unquote, my hand. When I first started playing poker, for whatever reason, everyone kind of had like their favorite hand. Jack 8 suited was mine. I don't know why. Not that that's the reason I'm calling here, or maybe in some deep recesses of my mind it was, but you know, getting 15 more with the suited connector, or suited gap connector in this situation, I decided to call. I do think it's probably best as a fold out of position here, as I mentioned before. So we end up going 4 ways to a flop of ace queen 5 with 2 spades. The queen 5 are of spades, so the ace is offsuit. I check, pre-flop opener checks, neck to act checks, and now the button bets 40 into 80. When he does this, I think he's doing this fairly wide. He doesn't have to be that strong. You know, as last to act, you're going to find a lot of times people just bet here because it's been checked to them. Because I have jack high, I want to take the initiative here. Obviously, I could just call with my draw, but I think that he's just going to have such a wide array of hands that there's no reason that I shouldn't be check raising to possibly get him to fold. Just anything that he has, whether it be second or third pair, or possibly a weak ace. So I make it 115. Now it folds back to him, and he calls relatively quickly. When he calls really quickly on the flop, I think that he's either going to have like a weak ace here or a flush draw himself. The turn is an offsuit jack, and now I make a pair. He's playing about like $460, $465, I think it is. And so the pot's about 300. I don't want to be betting some like $200, $220 bet and now get jammed on by him and find myself in an awkward spot where I just have to call. I'd much rather take the onus in the hand and basically put him in a tough spot if he does happen to have an ace where he's going to have to call off essentially for his whole stack and prevent him from being able to shove on me in a spot where, you know, possibly he takes a hand that he shouldn't be jamming on me with and puts me in a tough spot. So I end up making it, I think, like 430, essentially putting him in all-in, or putting him to an all-in decision. He tanks for quite some time and finally makes a call. The river is an offsuit ace. He's got like 30 bucks left. Obviously, I'm not folding, but at the same time, I don't think there's any point in betting. I think a lot of times he's going to either have a misdraw or an ace that's not going to fold. I check, and he checks back, and I end up beating his 9-10 of spades for what is a turn open-ended straight and flush draw. I really don't like his call here on the turn because though it looks like he's got a really big draw, I think oftentimes he could actually be really dominated here by bigger flush draws. I could have like king X of spades, ace X of spades. He's obviously hoping that I've made hand myself, like ace 5 or something of that nature. But even in that case, like his equity is just not really as good as he thinks it is. He's got no fold equity, which, you know, is obviously if I had bet something like 150 and now he can jam and hopefully get me to fold, then I like his play. But as play, because I bet so large, I think he should just be folding. So we scoop that one, and then we play this hand where under the gun had been doing a bunch of stuff. I saw him raise large with 7 deuce offsuits, like 35 or 40. He also called someone down with like a 3 on like an ace queen 3, I don't know, 5-8 board or something like that. So he's obviously kind of loose, doing all sorts of interesting things. So he limps under the gun. I'm to his immediate left with ace-queen offsuit. I make it 30, and now the player to my immediate left calls, the button calls, and the limper calls as well. We go 4 ways to a flop of ace-king 8 with the king 8 of spades. Under the gun checks. Obviously, I think I have a mandatory c-bet here with top pair nut kicker. I bet 90 into, I think, 120. The player to my immediate left calls fairly quickly, and everybody else folds. We go heads up to a turn, which is a 10 of spades. I don't have any spades in my hand. The flop is an offsuit ace, so he could have ace-x of spades. I think the best course of action here is to check, hope that he checks back. I check, and unfortunately, he bets 100. He's playing about like 300, 350. I don't think there's much I can do here other than fold. You know, I can hope that he has like ace-jack offsuit and that I'm beating that, but other than that, there's not many hands that I can think of really that I'm beating here, unless it's like ace-8 suited or something like that, or some different suit that, you know, I just have essentially dead. But I think a lot of times that hand's just going to check back. You know, it's possible that he bluffed me, but if he did, kudos to him. This is just a turn that I don't think I can continue on, and I do think that continuing here is a mistake. This is essentially the hand that I lost at the must-move table, where the flop came ace-high all spades. I bet and got jammed on, and I didn't have a spade in my hand, and I called and ended up being up against a flush, in which case I just don't think there's many hands that I could beat, where, you know, my kicker doesn't really play. At best case scenario, I'm hoping the guy has like a worse ace with a smaller kicker that happens to be a spade. So I think in these situations, it's better to just fold and find better spots. It is Monday. Got in a decent session. I ended up winning $665. As I did mention, the game kind of broke down late, and I just figured it was better to leave because it wasn't as good as it was earlier on. It did take a very long time for me to get into the game, so it looks like possibly I'll have to start going in even earlier, getting Charlie to school earlier, and then getting into the games earlier, so I don't have to wait for like over an hour to get into the main game, or the only game that was running at this point. I had a great weekend with Charlie and my wife. We went to a couple of events, a couple of museums, so that was really fun. And other than that, you know, just back on the grind. Thanks for checking out this video. I do have like 2 more days of, I think, Thursday and Friday to post up, so I'll be getting to those. And yeah, we'll catch you later. Peace.
Trying to bide our time, we know it's all done. Take a bow, you win.